Hello, hello. Welcome to another Rumble Premium exclusive episode of the TMI Show, the Ted Manila Information Show. I am Manila Chan. That over there is the T of the show, Ted Rawl. We are not live because this is a premium episode. We're live Monday through Friday, so give us a break. So
if you're watching this, like Vincent,
if you're watching this,
we might be dead by now.
It's possible. A nuclear strike could have happened in DC or New York City. So who knows? This might be like a post-mortem video.
It was nice
or being shot.
Guys. So
nice knowing everybody. Yeah. Being shot on the streets. But today's premium special, we're going to be talking to a filmmaker, Ted, which is a treat because we usually don't get to do like a lot of like fun, like artsy topics. And I think this is like one of those times that I think it's such a treat to talk to somebody that's a creative, right? I mean, I know you are too, Ted. I know you're a cartoon. I get it. I know.
Yeah, but not a filmmaker. I mean,
but this is a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And I'd love to pick the brain of the creative types, right? Because I have such a narrow scope of my own creativity. And this is like a filmmaker. He has his own production company and all of that. And he's got a big, long resume. His name's André Joseph. We'll be bringing him on in just a moment. But first, we want to show you his latest film is dropping on Amazon Prime, on Prime Video, August 29th. It releases then. But we'll show you a little trailer from it, and then we'll talk to the filmmaker himself, André Joseph. So let me pop this on the stage. All right. You might want to turn your volume down. There's explosions and gunshots.
I'll turn my volume up.
Here we go.
I got a call from the FBI this week. George Schaefer was murdered in his home last night.
Schaefer was working on something so big, it kept us all in the dark. I think this guy had something to do with it.
Hands behind your back. Now.
Making this harder than what it needs to be. It's just...
The president's nominee for the Office of National Drug Control Policy, James Marks.
I tried everything in my power to stop the hearing alone.
You tried your way. I want to do mine.
Do you have any remorse for the people you killed?
Let me see my DVD, friend. What do you really know about me?
That he took everything from me. How do you think I feel?
Go home. It's over.
Let it end like this.
We need to get Agent Miller into custody with as little noise as possible.
You're in trouble.
Don't.
You're not the one I know.
Mom's never came up with the This is as important to me as it is to all of you.
I'll leave.
Sure you want to do this?
No, I mean nobody is going home until he does.
When they find you, you're gonna be in a world of hurt.
These people are gonna bury us.
So I'll take the coward's way out. Don't trade everything for one moment with my wife, and there's no going back.
All right. So, Ted, that is called The Last Vendetta. And it is apparently part of a trilogy, but we're latecomers to the whole thing. So we got to catch this on Amazon Prime when it drops. And we're bringing the filmmaker, and I assume the director. I think he's a director too. We're going to pop him on screen. André Joseph is joining us. He's a filmmaker, actor, and founder of the New York-based indie film production company called AJ Epyx with a Y, AJ Epyx Productions. His latest film that you just saw the trailer for right there is called The Last Vendetta. It's a crime thriller. It drops on Amazon Prime August 29th. The Last Vendetta film release extravaganza, which is, I think, the whole release party, will be held on September 6th from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. In New York City. tickets are available for that event on Eventbrite. André Joseph, thank you so much for joining us.
This is an honor. Thank you so much for having me on.
Like an actual filmmaker to tell us how things are done. So I appreciate you being here. I was reading that your background, you look way too young to have gone as far back as 1992 and starting to make films. But it looks like you were like interested in making films since you were really young. Tell us about that. What brought you to this calling at like the age of 13, I believe is what I saw?
It kind of happened by chance. For me, I grew up as somebody that was a big avid toy collector, and every movie or cartoon that I watched on TV, I was always taking the toys, reenacting what I saw, and then coming up with my own ideas for storylines and expansions that maybe those pieces of film or television shows didn't quite catch on to. So, right around 92, 94, my uncle had just gotten a video camera and he was living with my grandmother at the time. And I used to go over there a lot to hang out with my cousins. And we were always doing these skits with my figures or just by ourselves with everything that we saw. And one day we were like, hey, let's use my uncle's camera to shoot. But we were too young and he thought we were going to break it. But it just really had my interest that I went to a video camp here in Staten Island, New York, where I got to learn the basics of just how to operate a camera, how to do all the little effects that you could do at that time with the camera. Not until 97, I was on a summer vacation and my mom had just gotten one of those VHS cameras and we made some friends at our hotel and we wanted to do a murder mystery story. So we talked her into letting us use it then and she said yes. And pretty much that was the beginning of me getting friends together on the weekends, filming shorts that I was writing. And yeah, and then I just decided I wanted to take it seriously and go to school for it.
Wow. Yeah, so you were even writing them when you were that young, writing the films?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, even back as early as third grade, the school that I went to had a writer's workshop course. So they encouraged us to write original stories, and that's kind of what I did. I just jotted down things that came out of my head or influences from movie shows, even video games that I played, and sometimes doing my own versions of them, my own fan fiction, but then also doing my own original stuff. And pretty much just those influences as well as life experiences made me start to transfer that from writing short stories to writing scripts.
Ted, I have a ton of questions, but I don't want to silence you.
No, go ahead. I'll pipe in. Go ahead.
Okay, so as far as this film, like I said, I'm late to the bandwagon here. The Last Vendetta is the last of a trilogy, if I understand that correctly. Can you tell us
That's
about the series?
Yes, that's correct. So the first film was made in 2009. It's called Discernible Vendetta, which you can find on Prime Video as well. And that just came out of my love for Miami Vice, Lethal Weapon, and a number of like the buddy action movies of the 80s. But I wanted to give it more of a personal kind of punch to it, not just make it like a full out comedy kind of deal. And so I like the idea of this DEA agent played by my fellow actor Chris Carula Jr. And he's got this hidden history that nobody knows about, and it's tied to his wife's murder. And the only person that ever really trusted him was his partner, which I play in the films. And so we're always on these cases where sometimes his past comes back to haunt him. And little things happen where we start to learn things along the way between these two characters that not everything is quite on the surface level. So we did that first film. Then we did a sequel called Vendetta Games, which came out in 2017. That also can be found on Prime and on Tubi. And that continued to expand the story, but also put more focus on myself and the actor that plays our boss, Marks, played by J.R. Carter. So this film, The Last Vendetta, is the culmination of all these truths that have been kind of hidden for the most part are now starting to come out just as all the characters are kind of going through like a transition in their lives.
And now, as far as the filmmaking process goes, um, you know, I'm just guessing that you're somewhere around my age, somewhere in your 40s, based on the stuff that you're talking about, your influences. Now, I remember growing up, and I'm from LA, so I remember, you know, like films like from Spike Lee and other very prolific African American filmmakers were a huge thing, right, in the 90s, right? It was a big genre, and I have to ask if any of those people had influenced you as well as a kid, and what you thought about how folks like Spike Lee or other famous filmmakers, and at this point, I guess even Denzel Washington is a filmmaker, how young black men were portrayed in the 90s versus how they're being portrayed now. Like you said, there's you know, federal agents are now not only white dudes, as I'm seeing in your films, they're multi-ethnic. How would you compare how young black men were portrayed back then versus the portrayal of black men now in today's film industry?
Oh, well, I would say first, 100% Spike, John Singleton were huge influences for me growing up. I remember seeing Do the Right Thing, sneaking into my parents' bedroom when it came out on home video. And I always keep hearing the story from my dad about how the next day I went on the bus and I went on like a cursing tirade and got in trouble with the bus lady, and they didn't understand why I was going nuts. But yeah, back in those days, you were kind of caught in a situation where before Spike came along, black actors were depicted primarily as stereotypes. You were either a working class guy struggling to make ends meet, or you were portrayed as a criminal, like a pimp, a drug dealer, or just a passive character that's just completely disposable and forgotten.
Or you
You
were the
know, and
side
then
man, right? You were the partner, like the Danny Glover character in
right,
Triple 11.
exactly.
And then
Yeah,
and something bad happens to him, and then the white lead like avenges him.
pretty much, yeah, that's exactly what it was. The black actor in those instances would tend to be like sort of needing the white savior to get out of their problem.
Totally.
And yeah, and I think what's changed now is you have more not just black centric lead characters, but characters that are more fleshed out, that they're not just surface level talking slang, have to dress a certain way, but to be portrayed in an honest, earnest manner that I think you're starting to see now, not just in Spike Lee's work, but also Ryan Coogler, Ava DuVernay. They're trying to change that mold and that perception in a very big deal. And so I think that's becoming more accepted now in this day and age, both in film and television.
Oh yeah, I've seen definitely with the rise of black female filmmakers getting a lot of praise. I mean, there's so many amazing things. I mean, I'm terrible at remembering like movie names and titles and stuff, and even I'm obviously I come from the world of politics, so I know I'm more likely to name more congressional House members than actors or or producers or writers. But I definitely have noticed a rise in a lot of black female, not only lead characters, but black female directors and writers that have really been on the rise and have introduced a whole new take on how representation is seen in the industry. And given that you went to school for all of this and between from the 90s to now, do you think that representation has made an impact within minority communities writ large, not just black communities, but minorities?
I 100% do because going to schools now, there's more opportunity for people of color and of different cultures to be able to get their hands on a camera and tell their story in an honest way and not be preached to have to, oh, you have to tell it exactly like it is. And typically it's something that you get to see on the mainstream media's depiction of what society is supposed to be, right? So I feel that that is now an open opportunity, especially now with YouTube and getting all these tutorials you can find to learn how to use different programs, how to shoot with your iPhone and make it look cinematic. That has completely broken those barriers. So somebody who may not have like millions of dollars of a budget to make a movie, they could go on YouTube and learn from somebody with maybe less resources to learn how they could take something with whatever means that they have around them and make something with some meaningful impact from a story standpoint and from a technical standpoint.
Yeah, as far as action films go, which this is that, would you say, is that your main area of interest?
Well, that's been the one that I've been prone to do, mostly because they've been the ones that have been the most entertaining. I've grown up watching Stallone and Wesley Snipes, Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's always been kind of my interest. But I've had interest in other things too, in terms of comedies, sci-fi. I'm a big Star Wars fan, a big Ghostbusters fan, and those two in particular are the reasons why I got into this and trying to still, to this day, chase after something along those lines. But I've done other movies where I've tried to do something that was out of my comfort zone. Like I did a film called Dismissal Time, which was based on a racial bullying experience I had in high school. And that's a straight drama with a lot of emotions and very much hitting on things that are happening now in society and what was going on back in 2020. And also another movie called The Saxophonist, which was more like not controversial at all, just a straight love story about love and jazz music. So I'm always trying to not just be the action guy, but I try to diversify my portfolio because at the end of the day, I love stories and I love really creating interesting characters, especially people that I can relate to on a personal level.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in seeing this, especially because it's so accessible. Like you said, it's on Prime, coming out on Prime, and the fact that so many independent filmmakers, which we would have never heard about had it not been the great equalizer of streaming platforms. Do you think there's, obviously the rise of the amount, the sheer volume of content us viewers are able to access? A lot of people just complain, though, that say there's so much content, but none of it's any good. What do you think about that? For us as a viewer, the sheer selection, right? It's like that idea of going to the grocery store in the cereal aisle and you have like 300 cereals to choose from that you don't even know what to pick. How does a viewer decide what they watch, what they should watch? Because I mean, I could see the argument from both sides. Like when we were kids, it's like, okay, this is what is produced, this is what came out on VHS, this is what came out on the big screen, but there's a smaller selection. Now it's the cereal aisle that goes on for miles and miles. How do we know what's gonna we're gonna be scrolling forever, just looking to see what to watch that night?
That's an excellent question, and that's still a question that's still to be answered. I feel that, yeah, there's been the open frontier possibilities of now filmmakers like myself getting our films out on platforms that are widely accessible, not just in the US, but around the world. And especially when I did the Vendetta games, we got responses from the UK, from Africa, from Scotland, and it's been an unbelievable experience. But you're right in that there is so much content thrown your way and on a regular routine basis that it's just like kind of going to Blockbuster back in the day, and there's so many choices, but it's hard to decide because you've already seen this one movie. What else is new to go and see? I think in the same turn, you look at the big IP movies that are coming out right now in the theaters. There's some great films, but there's just a lot of the same old, no matter who's in it or how much it costs to make. It just becomes the same kind of formula, nothing new, no innovation. And the thing I like to talk about a lot is craftsmanship and the fact that a lot of movies now, and I mean, I love Marvel, but let's just be honest here that Marvel is a very producer driven franchise. And it doesn't have the same kind of craftsmanship as, say, a Spike Lee approaching a movie or Martin Scorsese approaching a film. So I think the true key is how do you stand out when you are in this wide frontier where everybody's making movies. I think it really comes down to knowing your audience, knowing how to market your film, which is something that I feel like schools need to teach more about, not just
Mm.
the craftsmanship of it. And at the same time, you got to just deliver on the quality of the script, the story, and solid acting. If you build that fan base from the ground up, and yes, it requires some social media and having to put yourself out there regularly, you could see results in years' time that people will recognize your name and associate it with quality versus somebody that they may not know, but taking a look at their trailer or taking a look at their poster, it's guaranteed, oh yeah, this is probably something that they shot for like $1, didn't really understand the mechanics or how to put it out there.
I mean, it just seems like I mean, Manila and I are come out of print and broadcast journalism, so we know what disruption is like. And obviously, you're going, movies are going through a massive disruption. So for example, is it hard for contemporary filmmakers to sort of accept something that used to be a bummer, straight to video? But now almost everything is straight to video, and almost no one's in the theater anyway. So is some part of you kind of wish you were opening at the Ziegfeld, or are you kind of like, this is fine, I just want to reach the people?
Well, I've had those times where I would think to myself, man, this would be great to put out at like Man's Chinese Theater and get a big audience to come out and see it. But as this time has passed from when I grew up and I used to watch all those entertainment shows and see the red carpet premieres, those days are not what they used to be now. And I feel that, yeah, it everything's kind of broken to where the big name actors are now doing Netflix movies or they're doing even Tubi movies. And there's really no middle ground in between. When it comes to theaters, you're either doing a big IP that costs 200 million or you're doing a little A24 indie film that will get a good size fan base that still loves cinema. I think for me personally, though, I'm still somebody that grew up, like I said, going to Blockbuster and sometimes discovering these movies, especially if they didn't hit the theater. So to me, it's really just getting it out there, getting the response from the people. And if it has influence and I get good feedback, then I feel like I did my job. And sometimes I could even live vicariously through the festival scene when I have movies like The Last Vendetta and some of my past films play on a big screen in front of a crowd and get their reaction. And that to me is enough, but I still would want to try to get the widest audience as possible.
Yeah, I think it's so fascinating for, like Ted said, Ted and I come from like news media and journalism as a background, but not entertainment journalism, right? This is like hard news, politics. So it's a treat. Like I have so many questions that I can't even get my thoughts straight about what to ask a filmmaker. Like, how do you come up with the storylines? How do you develop a character? How do you the thing you said about the marketing is really fascinating to me, because I know you went to college specifically to learn to make films, and you speak, it sounds like, at universities and stuff often too. So what is it that universities are lacking at this point, or colleges are lacking, when they're teaching the younger filmmakers that are trying to be up and comers in today's era of filming? Like you said, like it everything goes to streaming platforms now. What are they lacking? What do the young kids who want to be like you, who want to be the next Spike Lee, who want to be the next Martin Scorsese, I mean, outside of being, getting a contract from MGM or Paramount or something, how do schools teach these young aspiring filmmakers to market themselves? It sounds like they're not doing it.
I can only speak from my experience when I went to Emerson College, which, again, great institution, and I learned a lot, got some great experience on student film sets. The only drawback I felt at that time was that there were so many classes that taught you how to compose a shot, how to light, how to load the old 60 millimeter film into an AR camera. You could learn all those things, but nobody was really telling you how to get the job when you got out of school. A lot of it was kind of geared to going out to Los Angeles and then pounding the pavement at the studios, which I don't condone. And certainly there are people who've had great success and have been able to find some luck, but there are also people that just kind of get stuck in one position. If, let's say, they want to be a director, but you're stuck doing PA jobs for, a whole decade. So I think it has changed a little bit from certain students I've spoken to that they do have some business courses, but I definitely agree that right now there is the sense that I think some schools just only teach the creative part, but they don't teach you enough of if you want to take it further to where
The
you see
business side of it.
yourself. Right. To make it where you actually want to make an income out of this, to make a living. And I think what's really difficult now is the fact that, like, I do another show called Unfinished Business Television with my partner Jeff Gallagher. We've had a number of name actors and filmmakers, many of whom, from the 80s and 90s that are still working today. But a lot of these guys have told us kind of the same thing, that ever since Netflix changed the whole game for releasing films, the residual checks have dropped off. A lot of these actors, and this is one of the reasons why you had those strikes a few years ago, their residual checks are pretty much the same amount as buying a meal at McDonald's. And what used to be getting,
Wow.
a couple of $100,000 a month if your show or movie was playing on television, they're seeing the bare minimum of that. So that's the thing I think schools need to teach is there are other ways. If you just don't want to be stuck in a box of only making films, you could use your skills in other facets. And that's one thing that Spike Lee once preached about. You could still tell a story within a commercial, within a music video, or even somebody's promo for a business, and you get paid for that. And I think that's just as much good training ground, good experience, and good networking to get those next gigs, to get that income when you're having that struggle to try to get your next feature made on your own dime.
Oh, that's interesting. That never, I mean, again, I'm a fish out of water when it comes to this industry. But that's a interesting point, is to say that, for aspiring filmmakers, that you can take a job maybe making a commercial or like a music video or something, to get by and pay the bills. Because like I said, I am from LA, and you would have thought that I would have fallen into the entertainment field, because, if I'm going to work in media, which I have done for almost 20 years, that I would fall into that category. But I think it was because I'm an LA native. It was sort of a rejection of that industry, because I saw so many starving actors, so many starving writers, so many starving directors. And I have friends that are, I mean, brilliant, brilliant writers, just never getting their big break. And I thought, well, that's not going to be me. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something safer. TV news journalism.
What could go wrong?
What can go wrong? I'm going to go the safe route. I'm going to go to Washington, D.C. And so here I am. But still, still out of work again, because the media landscape has completely like shifted. But that is such an interesting point, that people can do all of these other gigs. But do you find that that's a common theme then, that a lot of these people that are talented, that could do this stuff, could apply their talents to other means, but the educational institution where they learned how to do their craft never taught them that they can apply this elsewhere to make a living? Because that's really smart. I've really never heard a filmmaker such as yourself preach to other would-be filmmakers, young filmmakers, that, hey, your skills are applicable elsewhere.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with this because most of the classes that I was taking, and even down to like when I was at New York Film Academy for a summer program, we would just be watching every classic movie going as far back as the early days of cinema, going back to Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, to, the Russian Revolution, or even films that came out of the French New Wave. And of course, I gained a lot of experience from that and a lot of influence from it. But at the same time, it's like you're only teaching us these narratives. What about other things that, we could apply these skills to? And I'll admit, I was one of those kids that came out of college and said, I'm just going to make feature films. And
Yeah.
realizing on my first movie that there's that culture shock when you have to realize you got a crew to pay, you've got equipment to rent, money can run out very easily because you have so many mouths to feed on set. And those are things that sometimes you can learn in school and other times you don't, but you really just have to learn it from practice more so than from a textbook. So I definitely feel like as that time went on and I realized that culture shock, I started to say to myself, I can't just wait for the next movie to get made. I got to figure out, I got all this equipment. What am I going to do with it? And I realized just from seeing friends of mine film wedding videos, or even going out and say filming a promo for a law firm, or doing a presidential, or not presidential, but like a political campaign video,
Sure.
Ah,
things that
yeah.
do actually need those skill sets to be able to make stuff. Even now, podcasting, people that need, video content to put out on YouTube or on different channels, they need editors that know how to do motion graphics, who know how to balance sound. So there's definitely places where you could take your film sets and really apply it into other mediums. And I think that, again, builds your skills. I've had friends now that teach, I have friends that work in news and have used those skills, and it's helped with income to help support what they're doing at the same time.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I mean, as soon as you said, "Oh yeah, campaign videos," my brain went, "Oh, yeah," because now you're talking my language, right? That's right. That you do need people to tape those things to make an impact, and those are the kind of unsung players, right? Because you can make or break a campaign. Um, and I may or may not offend people. I may or may not offend you, but for example, Kamala Harris's campaign, it was a dud. One of her, I mean, it was very short-lived, but if you're examining the videos that she put out, like
Mm.
the one that was basically making fun of men saying that they're voting for Kamala, that was, I know, a decision by like the DNC and her campaign. And I'm not knocking the whoever shot the film, whoever directed, or the commercial rather, but it was almost like the strategy was off, and the poor person that had to shoot it, like, they have to put that on their resume, right? But it made
No,
ends
they
meet.
don't. They can just leave that
Well,
off. Just leave it off. If you're
it was,
doing
yeah,
it,
like,
I mean, we're all gig workers now, so we all have 1,000 things. You'll have 1,000 things on your IMDb, and you can pick and choose what you want on there.
I mean, I guess that's a good point. But I mean, just watching that as a like a consumer, because I have eyeballs, I went, why did they tape this? Like, you have a series of dudes from different ethnicities, different sizes, different shapes, just
Well, it was
sitting on the back
it
of a
was
truck.
technically competent. It was just poorly written. I mean,
Correct.
I always wonder, Andre, like, to what extent do audiences, do you think, I mean, I feel like Americans are a sophisticated movie audience, right? I mean, but I mean, to what extent do people look and say, are they really able to look to evaluate film and say, okay, so the cinematography is awesome, the writing leaves something to be desired, or the actors did everything they could, but the script was weak, or or vice versa, or whatever. I mean, I feel like I'm pretty good at pinpointing what's good and what's bad about a film. Are most people able to do that, do you think? Or do they just think that movie sucked and they don't really know why, or that movie's great and they don't really know why?
I would say yes and no. I do feel that when I look, mostly because I have a writing job with the site Collider, so I'm always having to write these analysis for films. And there are definitely people like yourself that are out there seeing a movie and they can judge it from the technical aspect, who wrote it, who directed it, different creative decisions that have been made, or sometimes the thing that now is, particularly with IPs, how much political stuff gets injected into a movie to
Mm.
try to have this underlying message, and sometimes it, some one side will embrace it, the other side won't. So there are those people that really look knee deep into all those aspects. But I think when I go to a movie now, I just see mostly just regular everyday folks that they're just trying to spend their hard-earned money for the entertainment purpose. And these are the guys I see that mostly in the younger crowd and maybe somewhat of the older crowd, that they don't have time to go on the internet to look at, what went on behind the scenes of a particular film, or who the director is, unless it's like a brand name like a Quentin Tarantino or Martin Scorsese. Then they'll rush out, or Christopher Nolan. But most of the time, they see those commercials, they see who's in it, and that's enough for them to spend their money, because it's a safe bet for them versus something that might be a little bit more challenging, and they might not get it so much, but the real cinephiles might go out and go to one of these boutique theaters to go check it out, because then they'll get like more of an intimate experience in seeing that film.
Yeah, Ted's a film buff. I never get around to watching anything. I basically consumed news my entire life, since like the Peter Jennings days with the hair comb, and like
Yeah.
Ted Koppel. So that's basically been my whole life. I've known my whole life I wanted to be a journalist, and it solidified when I got to college age and I saw kids that were slightly older, like I said, that were not utilizing their degrees and basically putting their dreams on a shelf and becoming waitresses to wait for that big break or whatever, and not utilizing it, even if it is like you're saying, it's a paycheck, right? Whoever made that bad commercial for the commercial itself wasn't poorly executed, to Ted's point. It was just the angle
It's
that
the
the
content.
campaign took.
It's
the content sucked, but somebody got paid. It was a job for multiple people, the crew. And, it's so fascinating to me that there actually are, now that you bring this up to my attention, there are so many opportunities for somebody that has that skill set. And I can't believe now, looking back at growing up in my 20s in LA and thinking, why do people do the whole, I'm going to be a waitress and I'm just going to wait for my big break. Why do they do that, you think, in that industry?
The instant gratification of being famous, and that's something that I think we all kind of get caught up in when we're young.
They're just waiting for it, like they're by waitressing, and they're like, I'm going to get my big break.
There
I'm not
are
going to do anything
quite a
else.
few people. Yeah, there are quite a few people who honestly believe that they feel they have the talents that they could easily just, with attention, with getting the right connection, they could be a star overnight. And unfortunately, that's what social media has kind of poisoned in this day and age, is that if you have a lot of followers but no talent, they'll hire you just on the basis of your following. It's as simple as that. In fact, I was just watching Spike's new movie Highest to Lowest last night, and there's an aspect of that film that deals with that very issue of what is fame. Is fame just having the talent and not having the exposure and needing that exposure, or is it simply just having enough people behind your back that no matter how crappy you are, you have enough of a fan base that's going to push you to the top. So I definitely feel that sometimes if you try, and I feel like this is for a lot of the people that have been the most successful, if you're not overly concerned about winning awards and making millions of dollars, and you just do the work and you're trying to better yourself, eventually somebody or some moment's going to come along where you're going to have that breakthrough. And maybe that breakthrough may not necessarily be working in a major studio production, but it could be something that is just decent enough you can make a good living, still do what you love, and be able to support a family.
Yeah. I love that advice, because I mean, Ted's got a college age kid. I've got a little kid in first grade, but as a mom, I love hearing the practical advice, because again, like, it's not like journalism is some safe bet, right? Like, I mean, my parents would have been thrilled had I grown up to be a doctor or a lawyer or something, right? Or an accountant. That didn't happen. But I love hearing this practical advice, is that if you do go to school for these things, you can apply it in other ways to make ends meet. And no, like, you shouldn't just sit around languishing, your skills languishing by being a waitress and just waiting for your big break, that you can do all of these other things, and that you can network, right? That's one of the things I definitely knew, because I was, around people like that in Hollywood, was it's all about networking. And part of the networking is working on these small projects that maybe your heart isn't in it, but the fact that you're working on XYZ project at all, you're networking. And that is a great way to actually start building your career.
Andre,
Yeah, and people also.
I got to ask you,
Okay.
how was Highest to Lowest? I've been looking forward to seeing it. I don't know if you know about this film, but it's based on Kurosawa, Manila, and it it reunites Denzel Washington and Spike Lee after their amazing movie, The Inside Man, which is called Inside Man, which I love, and I've seen, I don't know, more times than I can count.
Oh.
Yeah, I would say of all the movies I saw this summer, this is probably the best one.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, it definitely has the vibe of Inside Man, just in terms of the rhythms. And, obviously you have a criminal element that's involved in the story. His use of music is phenomenal. All his hallmarks are there. Denzel is great. Jeffrey Wright is amazing in this. And it's not even really an overly political movie like some of Spike's other films. This one is
Right.
very much, as I said before, it is like a kidnapping story, but then there's this other side of it that really makes it interesting when it talks about the fact that Denzel's character is a music producer who runs a record company, and kind of the choice that he has to make with what happens with his son's best friend and what's going on with his business. And then there's the fame part of it when it comes to the kidnapper, which I won't spoil, but trust me, it's all there. Spike's still saying a lot about today's times.
Cool.
Oh,
Very
that's
cool.
okay. That's something I probably have to watch because Denzel, hot,
Have
and
you ever seen
Spike, who
Inside
doesn't like
Man?
Spike.
Watch
I
Inside
have
Man
not.
first. Gotta watch it.
Ted, I never watch anything other than like news. You know that.
Well,
I
go watch
finally got
Inside
around to
Man.
watching Shark Tank. So
Inside Man's the least. It's sort of the least. It's like the most, I'd say, pop, like genre film that Spike Lee's ever made.
oh, really? Okay, I got to look that up. But
I mean, I've
yeah,
seen
like
them all, loved them all for different reasons.
see right now I got my mom hat on just in case my kid decides he wants to do something impractical when he grows up. I'll know. I'm doing the Asian mom. I'm like, okay, if you want to go to film school, fine. Like, for example,
Who
I
knows what film is going to be like
well,
in 15,
Yeah.
20
who knows?
years? It's probably
No,
going to
who
be
knows?
3D hologram, implants in the back of your skull. Who knows?
Oh my gosh. Well, yes, but it soothes my Asian tiger mom soul to know that, oh, okay, if my kid decides to go into films, to go into media, that these skills are applicable to make a living, that you like get out of my house, go make a living, that it's possible because you don't have to end up being a waiter or waitress waiting for your big
There
break,
is
waiting for your
nothing
script to
wrong
get
with being
bought.
a waiter or a waitress.
No, but I know there's nothing
It's
wrong with that at
extremely
all.
honorable.
No, but
It's
that's
not being
my
an arms
point is
dealer. Yeah.
my point is that I know a lot of people, because I'm from LA, that put their dreams on a shelf because, like Andre was saying, that they're like, no, it's going to be instantaneous. I'm going to get discovered. And they have their skills languish, and then they become miserable because they never get that big break. Because they never thought outside the box to think, oh, my skills are applicable elsewhere. I can do XYZ. Like a lot of people I know that they're waiters or waitresses because it's flexible. Obviously, they can go to auditions, they can do those things. I get it. But I know so many people. I mean, Hollywood Boulevard is lined with pawn shops that are stores that show you people's broken dreams that came to Hollywood, right? I mean, it's depressing to me when I go see it. So the Asian tiger mom in me is hearing Mr. Joseph talk about this and going, "Oh, actually you can make a living going, like going to film school. You can actually, especially in the today's day and age with media it's everywhere, right? There's so many other avenues that you can apply a media-based degree towards rather than, when I was a kid, right, in the 80s and 90s, it was a more limited thing. But now, who knows? Like when my son, I mean, he's a first grader now, who knows? By the time he goes to college, who knows what the media industry is going to look like? I just want to think of the practical side of, hey, can my kid make a living? That's all I'm worried about. If he decides to, God forbid, follow mommy's footsteps and like study communication or.
Manila, I'm going to fight with you about that later. I think if you have a dream, you follow it because you'll be good at it, and you'll care about it, and you'll work hard at it, and the money.
I'm using the Ken Jeong, from the Asian actor Ken Jeong.
Yeah.
So many people don't know this. He has an MD. He went to school to be a doctor. His Korean American parents were like, We don't support your filmmaking career. If you get an MD, then we'll support whatever you do after. But get your MD first, and then whatever you decide to do after that, we will support. So he went and did it. So the Asian tiger mom in me is like, I can get with the Ken Jeong parents. I can get with that. All right.
Yeah, you know, obviously. Well, look, I have a friend who's a cartoonist too, a political cartoonist who he has a Harvard law degree. He graduated summa cum laude. He never practiced law, but you know, he uses his legal knowledge in his cartoons, and it comes up, and it gives a certain flavor to his work. Andre, tell me what can you tell us about the film? Like, what is the main, like, what were you trying? I always feel like art should always be judged on what was the creator trying to do. What were you trying to accomplish? What was the message you're trying to send? What were what was your goal here?
Well, with The Last Vendetta, the goal was to make this, as I call a rite of passage for the main characters of Miller, Stokes, and Marks, the three main DEA characters. And in this case, our boss Marks, he's about to be confirmed drug czar of the country, so that leaves his leadership post at the DEA completely vacant. And my character, who's been the family man all this time, is kind of torn between maybe stepping back, maybe doing some teaching. I'm not thinking about leadership. I'm just thinking about just supporting my family. And then you have the Miller character who's still kind of stuck, doesn't know where he's going because he's been so haunted by his wife's murder. And so kind of everything comes to a head when our boss goes missing after his confirmation hearing, and it coincides with this assassin that gets caught by the FBI. He calls me up, of all people, and I don't know how he knows my name, but he tells me all this stuff I didn't know about my partner. So we end up kind of getting at it, and it creates all this chaos. We're all split up. And so now I got to step up and be the leader to find the boss. And then my partner is on the run, not realizing the FBI is after him. And so there's all these things going on in terms of like progressing our characters. But we're also trying to talk about, sort of the real threat that's out there, particularly when it comes to the whole drug scene and watching shows like Snowfall and seeing, all these tales about how the government was kind of tied in with the drug cartels. And it was actually Chris who showed me the documentary The Last Narc about Kiki Camarena, the DEA agent that was captured by the Mexican cartels. And I used that as the template for what happens to our boss because we wanted this time not make it about us going after Russian drug runners or some made up faction that's trying to do some under. I
I
wanted to
think
get into the
Andre froze.
politics. Oh, can you hear me? So we decided we didn't want to make it just about like, oh, this is the latest gang we're going after. I said, you have these situations now where you look at Washington, you look at these politicians, and the threat isn't always necessarily them, but the dark money and the people that are lobbying and supporting their campaigns that are really doing this underhanded stuff and treating them like puppets. So I said, this could be a scary threat right here. And that's kind of what I wanted to get at, which was for these guys that have to go above and beyond to get justice, regardless of all the obstruction that's in their way.
As a filmmaker, as a writer, how much research do you have to do when you're writing something like this? Like, how much research do you have to do for story development, for character development, like the FBI characters and stuff like that? What kind of research goes into that?
It's pretty extensive. It's just reading a lot of what's out online about different cases. Some of my friends are real life NYPD, even federal agents, so I tend to pick their brains as much as I can about, would this procedure work? Would this kind of thing happen on a real case? So I would talk to them quite extensively, even show them the script to make sure I have my technical jargon down. And especially the political angle with this movie, it's not hard to really read a C-SPAN transcript or to watch, when they do these hearings on MSNBC or CNN and kind of getting down how these guys interact with each other in Washington, D.C. So I kind of like threw all of that together. And then, of course, you watch other movies for influence and different ideas, how you can spin it around to make it your own. So quite a bit of research, just wherever you can find it, and it's wherever it's accessible.
Yeah. So you there's a lot of components I see then of like journalism, for example, where you have to do the background research in order to, I would say, make the characters seem real, right?
Yeah, and you do take liberties where you have to, because sometimes something that might be kind of mundane in real life is not going to be exciting on the screen. So you kind of fiddle with it just a
Like
bit.
C-SPAN?
Pretty. Yeah, I mean, I can't use the real C-SPAN for a hearing scene, so I'll just make up my own name, and then, I'll get a theater down the street and make it look like it's a congressional room in Capitol Hill, but have that same type of vibe, that same back and forth when you're questioning a witness.
Or hopefully having the fake senator or the fake congressman saying something a little spicier than they actually do. Because C-SPAN I do have on, and it's just droll and dry. And obviously in movies, they're not presented that way, because I was a Capitol Hill reporter. In movies, those characters are always presented way more spicy than they are in real life. Let me just say.
Yeah, we have in this movie, because there is a hearing scene, and we have this senator played by James Gavin, who was amazing to work with. And this was one of those guys that I just said, this has to be like a real Southern senator type. And I won't name names, but it'll be pretty obvious when you see in a movie who he's kind of channeling. But I could definitely tell you, he says some very spicy stuff that I didn't even write. I just gave him the okay to kind of wing it. And he delivered some stuff that I think is going to really hit home and drive some reactions.
Wait, I want to see. I want to see. Is it the character with the white hair?
Yeah, it's like a little bit in the beginning as you're hearing the voiceover of the news report. Yeah, him, James. He was great.
Okay.
He was really
I
fun.
when I watch, I'm going to try to see if I can pinpoint who the influence was. A Southern senator?
Yes.
Does he look like him or similar? Give us a hint.
I'd say pretty close, but not exact.
But a good representation.
Yeah.
Huh.
A Southern senator. Well, we'll have to wait to
Well, he's
see
well
it when it
cast.
drops
I
on
mean, that
Amazon.
guy, if you told me that guy's a senator, I'd be like, okay, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. This character perfectly
Although
cast.
he'd be a child these days. He's so young.
He's not old enough.
Yeah.
He's not. Yeah, he's not 97.
To be a real senator. But yeah, that's okay. I got to see this. So obviously it's really cool getting to talk to somebody that, obviously works in this industry and has so many titles under his belt, and to be, under 50, to have so many titles and I mean, it's true. And that you found your way. And, I'm looking at your website. We've had it playing in the background here, and you have a long list of accolades and all of these different film festivals that you've done. You've put out so many works so far. Of all your babies, before we say goodbye, which one of all these babies that you have listed here, which one was your favorite to work on and why?
My favorite to work on was my short film Dismissal Time, and that I shot during COVID in 2021. And like I said, it was based on a personal experience I had. So I had to recreate moments that I experienced in my life through the actors that we hired. And it was very cathartic. But the thing about it was that the crew and the actors were just so responsive that there was never real drama behind the scenes. Everybody kind of knew what the story was about, what we were trying to convey in terms of the messaging, and dealing with particular situations that happen in schools but tend to get covered up because certain administrators don't want to have their quotas ruined. They don't want their reputations to be dismantled. And sometimes trying to get down to the truth and try to expose sometimes that there is racial discrimination that tends to be swept under the rug. So to me, that one was like the most personal, the one that I think got the most very emotional impact of a reaction from people that have seen it in the theater, and it's really my most proud work that I've ever done.
Very cool.
Yeah, it would be hard to pick, right? You have so many so many a whole laundry list of things that you've put out. Like, how do you even decide? But yeah, if
But they're
it was
all
the
fun
most
to do.
satisfying.
I've had great experiences on every one of them, and the actors and crew have always been fantastic. So I can never say like, well, this one's better than the next. I always look at, hey, there's always the next one, but each one there's always a good learning experience to get out of it.
Do you tend to work with the same actors over and over?
Quite a few, yeah. I mean, this was probably my fifth working relationship with Chris Carula and J.R. Carter. Obviously, this is the third in the series, so I've worked with him a lot. And there's a lot of faces in this movie I've worked with on short films and even projects that I didn't direct, that I just was either like a supporting actor or working behind the scenes. These are guys that I've actually had like good relationships with in person and said, hey, you could probably play this part and work with them, and they were just easy and fun to be collaborating with.
As an indie filmmaker having your own small production studio, is there or are there groups that support other indie filmmakers where you guys can kind of gather, exchange ideas, how to market, how to get investors? Are there things like that out there to support other independent filmmakers?
There's plenty of group pages on Facebook and Instagram. Definitely, when you go to film festivals like the Urban Action Showcase or the Garden State Film Festival, there's always opportunities with networking programs. And oftentimes, I would see a lot of the same faces at these places. So we would always kind of like trade ideas and think about like what can we do to get our work out there to see some revenue come in for us, or if we need referrals for actors and crew. Yeah, there are organizations and small groups, and even in colleges where alumni could come in and recruit. So there's plenty of that going on for independent filmmakers out there.
Yeah, this looks great, and I can't wait to try to piece together. I'm not going to ask you to spill the beans yet on who the senator is modeled after. I'll watch it, and then I'll have to inbox you and say, I'll guess. I'll
It's
make a
very
guess.
strange when you have characters like that. I mean, I remember Distinguished Gentleman, Eddie Murphy film. It
Yeah.
had the guy who played the Speaker of the House. It's like you totally were like, that guy's the Speaker of the House, right? Like he is the Speaker of the House, no question.
Mhm.
Or actually, maybe he was the Senate Majority Leader. I don't remember, but anyway, he was one of those two.
Yeah, we got to watch. I'll put this back up here one last time for the trailer. This is my mystery right there. Because I'm a political animal.
Yeah.
That's the movie right there. We're watching the trailer of The Last Vendetta.
Now it's a trilogy.
by
I assume you can't.
André Joseph.
It's like Godfather 3. You can't skip to the end.
Oh.
Watch them all, right?
Well, there's
Do we
some
have-
stuff that you have to see the first two to understand, but we really tried to shoot it in a way where it wasn't fully required. That's
You
why
could
there's
stand-
Right.
flashbacks you'll see.
So, like,
yeah.
do you ever think about like, oh, often like two people will watch a movie and one person's like seeing the previous two, and then you want them to be able to bring their friend or their partner to see the movie and have it and be able to understand it as a standalone.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were trying to go for. Kind of like if I compare it with the Mad Max series, where it's a continuing saga, but each one stands on its own. That like you watch the Road Warrior, you don't really have to watch Mad Max again. They kind
No.
of tell you everything in the beginning.
Right. But like I would
Yeah.
think like Harry Potter films, you can't really understand anything. Actually, unless you've read the books. But
That's true.
Well, I feel like with Star Wars, like you can start with the third one and still then it'll pique your interest to watch the first one. I don't think you necessarily have
that might
to.
be true, but it's pretty. I think it would be pretty confusing, to like if you watched episode 2 first, for example.
Mhm.
But you could.
I think you could. So I wonder, that's a good question. If somebody could watch this and The Last Vendetta and understand the first Vendetta. So
So many vendetta.
so many
Yeah.
Vendetta.
As someone who holds vendettas, I can appreciate that. All right.
André Joseph, thank you so much for this fun, entertaining, and very enlightening conversation about independent filmmaking and just the media industry as a whole. André Joseph is a filmmaker, an actor, the founder of the New York-based indie film production company called AJ Epyx with a Y, AJ Epyx Productions. His latest film that we've just been showing you the trailer for, The Last Vendetta, drops on Amazon Prime August 29th. And the film release extravaganza held on September 6th over on 232 East 9th Street, New York City. That's from 6 to 9 p.m., New York City. Eventbrite for those tickets, and go check out his website, of course, is AndréJoseph.com to see a list of all the
I may
films and
show
where
up
they
to
can
that.
find it. Is
Yeah,
that near
please
your
come
house,
through.
Ted?
Let's see you.
Yeah, I'm half an hour away. I'm on the Upper West Side, so no problem to get to the
Cool.
East Village. Yeah, you're in Staten
Yeah,
Island.
very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, cool.
only
But
ferry
this
right
is-
away.
Yeah.
But where
That ferry can take a while, but it's such a great
East
ride.
9th Street.
Yeah, it's
East,
East
so that's in the
East
city.
Village.
hmm
Yeah, that's in the city. Yeah,
Of
Ted
course.
can get there.
Yeah, it's very much in the city. Nothing in
Yeah.
New York is. I mean, New York is weird. Staten Island's an exception, or outer reaches of like Queens or Brooklyn. But really, for the most part, nothing's really more than an hour away, ever. You know.
Even
really
Staten Island?
Staten Island's the exception. I said that. But like,
Oh.
if I were going from here to Middle Staten Island, it's going to take a couple hours. But I
Oh.
mean, but, like,
Andre's a native. Andre, is it true? Why are the rumors of like Staten Island like it's all full of mobsters and thugs?
So I get this question a lot. Where I
know the
live, I'm
answer
in
to
the
that
North
question.
Shore. Yeah. So the North Shore is pretty diverse for the most part because you have the ferry and you have the Verrazano Bridge nearby. It's when you start getting further down to the South Shore, and yeah, it's a particular type of political country, I'm going to say, but it's also, yeah, very much where the bodies have been buried. Let's put it that way.
That's real? That's true?
it is true.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've heard
for
all
Oh, I
the
sure.
thought it was
stories.
just movies.
No.
No.
Yeah, there's one
Oh.
neighborhood called Todt Hill, T-O-D-T, that has a lot of, let's just say, connected people who live there in very nice homes. It's not the only neighborhood in New York that's like that by any means.
Oh.
Howard Beach, Queens, certain sections of Brooklyn. But yeah, no, famously, yeah.
Oh, I just, I'm from California, so I just always assumed the whole Staten Island trope was
Of
just
course,
a made up
you know,
movie thing.
El Cosa Nostra is not what it used to be. But
Oh, I didn't know that there really was a mobster thing.
oh,
In-
100%.
I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh.
It's pretty famous for it.
California.
didn't
I
Tom
don't know.
Gotti live there?
Yep.
In Staten Island?
Yeah, in fact, Big Ange's house is not far from me, from Mob Wives.
Yeah, I mean, The Sopranos is
Oh.
actually, I mean, it's kind of a joke that it's set in New Jersey just because it's a love
Right.
letter New Jersey. But the truth is, Staten Island's closer to what that kind of thing
Yeah.
is like.
Oh, see, I mean, Ted is basically a full blown New York. He wasn't born there, but he's been there forever. So I'm the only one that's not a New Yorker here. So I just always assumed that was like a movie trope about Staten Island. I didn't know that was.
It's
real.
factual
Yeah.
for sure.
It's-
For sure. Yeah.
Oh,
I
I'm
mean,
curious
it's
now.
like, if you stop there, I mean, there's great food there. It's like, stop there for food or gas or whatever. It's just be very polite. It's always good advice anyway, but be very polite.
Sure.
You know,
Oh,
Don't cut people off. Don't be rude.
Yeah.
No, I'm
oh,
serious.
good to know. I never knew. I'm a Californian. What do I know about the East Coast? So I'm like,
Yeah, don't be Don't
oh.
be bringing that road rage energy to Staten Island.
Oh, yeah.
It would not be.
yeah, I'm a California speedster, and
No.
don't do that in Staten Island.
No.
Good
You
to
can
Especially in the
know.
mall parking lot.
Okay, good to know. André
Yeah.
Joseph, Staten Island native. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank
Andre.
you so much again.
Thank you.